Hi Year 6, it's Miss Wilcox here again. I really hope that you enjoyed last week's English learning on plastics. This week we've got something completely different for you based on the music video for Titanium, the song. I'm going to start off the week. I'm going to talk you through today's lesson. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen with you. So hopefully you can now see the lesson and me in the corner. We're going to talk through the lesson, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to watch the video together. Whilst we watch it, have a think about what is happening in the video and what the boy has done in the video. If you go onto the link that is on the Smart, it will come up to this, and you just need to scroll down to the second video and press play. Okay, so if you could pause me on your video and just have a think about what's happened in that video so far. Maybe make some notes on like the very, 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 very vague storyline of that video. I think if I had to summarize the video, I would say that there's a boy who has these sort of supernatural powers. I don't know if you noticed halfway through on the television it said supernatural occurrence at local school. So he's got these supernatural powers. We see at the beginning that he has destroyed his school. Something's happened, like serious has happened at his school that he's done. And then we sort of see more of his supernatural powers when he gets home, and he can like get the keys off the table, and he gets the teddies spinning on the ceiling. And then right at the end, when the police are surrounding him, he gets into that ball and he sort of shoots his powers off, and they all go flying. So that's kind of the general gist of the storyline of the video. We're going to be looking at that in a lot more detail tomorrow. Today, we're going to just be writing some pairs of sentences or pairs of clauses with colons and semicolons. Now, because we haven't been at school for a while, we haven't gone over this. So we thought we'd go over it with you just as a reminder. So just to remind you about colons and semicolons, each side of the colon needs to be a main clause. I'm going to put MC, stand for main clause. So let's just focus on the colon for now. This is a colon. Each side needs to be a main clause, and we're going to look at what a main clause is in just a second. And remember that the colon kind of asks the question, why? So I might say, the teacher rang the police, and then I could put a colon, why? Why did she ring the police? She was scared of what the boy had done. So I've got two main clauses. The teacher rang the police is a main clause. We'll go over that in a second. Why? She was scared of what the boy had done. Okay, so the colon answers the question why. We'll have a look again in a minute. The semicolon means that the two main clauses are very, very closely linked, and we'll go through an example in just a minute. What do I mean by a main clause? So a main clause is a clause that makes sense by itself. If you said it to someone, it would sound complete and wouldn't need anything adding to it. So I'd like you to pause me now and have a look at the 6 clauses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Decide which of them are main clauses and which of them are not main clauses. So pause me now. Hopefully you pause me. I'm going to go through which of these are main clauses and which are not. So number 1, without hesitating. That doesn't make sense. I haven't told you anything. I could continue it and it would make sense. Without hesitating, the boy walked out of the school. But we haven't got that bit. So without hesitating is not a main clause. It does not make sense by itself. Number 2, he walked slowly through. He walked slowly through what? We don't know. It's not complete, is it? It doesn't make sense by itself. Not a main clause. Number 3, he looked around to see the destruction. Well, yeah, I've just told you a whole piece of thing that makes sense. He looked around to see the destruction. That is a main clause. So that could go on one side of a colon or a semicolon. Even though there were papers scattered everywhere. Now this one is not a main clause, it's a subordinate clause, because even though is a subordinating conjunction. So it doesn't make sense by itself. We could carry it on, but it doesn't make sense by itself. He rode his bike as fast as his legs would carry him. Makes sense? It started as an ordinary day. Again, makes sense. So each side, if we just go back to this, each side of a colon needs to be a main clause that makes sense by itself. Also the case for, oh, I'm in purple. Okay. Also the case for a semicolon. So lots and lots and lots of main clauses today. Going on to some examples. Start with the colon actually. Put that up. So remember we talked about this colon asking the question why. Some people like to also think of it replacing the word because. He rose up and looked around him in disbelief. There's my first main clause. Why? Why did he rise up and look around him in disbelief? Had he really caused this much destruction? So it's asking the question of why he's doing that. Okay. Again, it's a question. It's quite an advanced one actually. It's a question, but it is a main clause because the question makes sense by itself. And let me draw your attention to this letter here. It is not a capital, so we use a small letter at this point. The example of a semicolon, again, we need two main clauses, and the two sentences need to be really, really, really closely linked. So it started as an ordinary day, main clause. Next main clause, it ended an extraordinary one. So those two sentences are very closely linked to each other, and therefore they work with a semicolon in between them. As a little challenge, you can also, don't worry about this bit too much, but you can also put a subordinate clause in as well as the main clause. So if I just get a little red line here for us, I'm going to put the subordinate clause in red. Despite his fear, there's my subordinate clause, and then I'm going to have my main clause. The young man stood up and observed his surroundings. Why did he stand up and observe his surroundings? As my next main clause, he was astonished by the power that he possessed. So we've got that additional subordinate clause in, which just makes that sentence structure really, really interesting. Despite his fear, the young man stood up and observed his surroundings. He was astonished by the power that he possessed. And that is your task today. It's to write some sentences that use a colon, answering the question why. Remember that we don't have a capital letter here. It looks like a capital O, but you know what I mean. We don't have a capital letter here. The colon answers the question why, and the semicolon shows that the two main clauses are really closely linked. So your task is maybe to write 3 sentences that use a colon about the video that we watched. You're very welcome to go back and watch it again. It's very interesting. It's got loads of details. Love to see some of you write some of these about like the bits that happen at the end with like the teddies and the keys and the leads going everywhere. So 3 sentences using a colon and 3 using a semicolon with a main clause either side. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you enjoy your task today.